City parks are for residents to enjoy. There are bylaws that govern their use that must be respected. This time, this protest has come to an end.
So here we have a copy of the eviction letter that was issued by the City of Toronto. It says, "The purpose of this letter is to advise to all of those who are occupying St. James Park that the time has come to remove your tents, structures, equipment, and personal belongings from the park. The city recognizes the right of Canadians to gather and protest. However, the city has determined that it cannot allow the current use of St. James Park to continue. Attached to this letter is a notice under the Trespass to Property Act, which sets out the activities of particular concern to the city and prohibits such activities from being undertaken in St. James Park. Pursuant to the notice, the city directs that all persons who are occupying St. James Park immediately remove all tents, structures, equipment, and other debris from the park and immediately discontinue use of the park between the hours of 12:01 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. Please be advised that if all tents and other structures, equipment, and debris are removed immediately, the city will take the necessary steps to itself remove the tents and other structures."
At a General Assembly today, the people of Occupy Toronto decided to remain in the park despite the eviction notices served by the City of Toronto.
We reaffirm our right to the use of public space to assemble, peacefully protest, and establish collective dialogue on issues that affect us all. These rights are guaranteed to us through the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms.
Inspired by Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Toronto has been converging at St. James Park since October 15th.
These occupiers are part of a group of applicants who managed to stall the City of Toronto's eviction notice with a temporary injunction.
The injunction is just being held until the arguments can be fully heard before the courts.
These arguments will be heard this Friday, giving those at St. James Park breathing room to plan their next fight.
The applicants have a right to freedom of expression, assembly, and conscience, and that the attempt to evict them from this public park in that exercise curtails their fundamental freedoms and should not be permitted.
It's now Saturday, November the 19th, and we're down here with the Occupy Toronto protesters, which, as you can see, it is still going strong. They applied for their stay on the eviction notice, which was granted to them so that they could have their day in court on Friday, and now we are waiting until Monday where the judge will make his ruling on whether or not they get evicted from the park.
The judge made a decision. He issued it this morning. He found that the protesters, including the 5 that I represent, have expressive rights under the Charter, including the right to build this encampment. However, he also found under Section 1, which is the section that imposes reasonable limits on any charter right, that the city had to do a balancing act between the protesters and the other citizens. And he found that the city was entitled to do that through the trespass notices.
All we've done this morning or this afternoon is attended in accordance with the law and allowed due process to be exercised. Notification has been made consistent with a notification that was made last week in regards to city property. It's now also to include property that we know to belong to the cathedral.
So will you be moving in tonight at 12:01?
I'm relying on people's good judgment and on their compliance to this hearing first. I'll give them plenty of time to comply first before any further actions. We're just here to maintain the peace and ensure public safety.
It is now Monday, November the 21st, and we have been covering this occupation movement here in Toronto extensively all week, paying very close attention to it. And just this morning, the judge announced his ruling that the occupiers here at St. James Park are indeed going to be evicted. Now, what time this is going to be happening, nobody knows at this point. But we did follow around some of the bylaw officers this morning as they were putting up the notices on the tents, and now we're going to speak to some of the protesters here to find out how they feel about everything that took place today. What do you think about the judge's ruling this morning and the possibility that a lot of these people may be getting evicted very soon?
Well, there's two different things. First one is based on the Supreme Court ruling in BC that should set precedents, right? So based on them setting precedents by saying Vancouver can stay, before our municipality would be able to rule on this, don't you think our Ontario Supreme Court system should have to make a ruling to decide within our province here?
I thought that it would come down to this ruling, to be honest with you. We did make a big point. I don't think we made enough. I think we still need to make more. To be quite honest with you, I think the police to this point have been very patient and polite, and we have to honour that. We have to respect it. There's no doubt about it. The ruling does come down, and it comes down from places that we don't like for it to come from.
You had a judge now who said a bylaw trumps our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, our freedom to assemble and our freedoms of expression. When they come here and they tell us that no, you can only have freedom of assembly between the hours of 5 a.m. and 12 midnight, that's just a precedent they're setting, which if we just allowed them to set that, we wouldn't be very good occupiers, would we?
I think if we're going to streamline this movement, I think we're going to talk about one specific thing and get all, because I mean it's an incredible movement. And if we were to get all of our voices and all of our power behind it, I think it's just focusing on where's the money going? What's happening to the middle class? Where are we going to be in 30 years from now? I'm less interested in about the eviction as much as I'm interested in who should be going to jail.
There's a potential to restore a concept of participatory democracy. I don't think that what we have currently, and I think most people would agree, that what we have is not a democracy. What we currently have being perpetuated is the concept that we don't care that people are dying, and what these people here are trying to say is we do care.
Some of the biggest questions we keep hearing in the media are they allowed to have tents? Are they allowed to have campfires? Can they have a sleeping bag? Can we take away their drumsticks? That's been like the bulk of the stories. Whereas the real story is, who are the top 10 greedy CEOs? Who are the people who are moving the most jobs overseas? Who are the people that are getting the biggest golden parachutes? Like, these are the questions that should be asked.
Occupy Toronto protesters have to pack up their tents and leave, but in this live shot you can see nobody's really packing up their tents right now. They have been living at this campsite in a city park for the past 5 weeks, and today the city's eviction notice was upheld by a judge. But some protesters say they simply will not go, and that could lead to a showdown between the city and the demonstrators.
We had what turned out to be bylaw officers with a lot of police. So the alarm went off that we're being evicted, and we acted accordingly. Our job was to protect the library yurt. In New York, they burnt all the books. They had over 5,000 books there, and they destroyed them. So we're going to do our best to protect our library. We're in here for good.
I'm going to put my stake in the ground, because I think that defending our rights is very important. But of course, the issue of police brutality is always prevalent. I mean, Canada, Toronto is still very scarred from the G20.
If we let them set the precedent that the right to assemble is only between the hours of such and such a time, then that means we have to have off-site facilities, off-site trailers, off-site protests, which is like defeating the purpose. Permanently occupying says, hey, we're here to stay, you better fix something or we're never leaving.
I'm Sid Ryan. I'm the president of the Ontario Federation of Labour. The reason I'm out here today to link arms with the Labour movement together with the Occupy movement, they've managed to keep this debate alive for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Finally, somebody is talking about the corporate greed and the 1%. They're not harming anybody here. There's no health and safety issues in this park. There's no violence to speak of in this park. So they just really and truly just allow them to continue with the protest, stop looking for obscure bylaws to kick them out, and forcing a confrontation tonight when there's no need for a confrontation.
Most likely, what they want to do, is have us leave, and then evict us, when there's not many of us here.
Yeah, you got it.
If they do not evict us by some miracle, we're going to have to come back and do this tomorrow.
All right, guys, it is currently 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, November the 23rd. We've just heard that there are a number of police officers sitting in a bus down at Parliament in Wellesley, so we're going to stick around for a little bit longer here to find out if this is the morning that the eviction is going to take place. Okay guys, it is exactly 6:15 a.m. There are cops absolutely everywhere. This place is completely surrounded right now.
Are you media?
Yeah, Press for Truth. Yeah.
I'm just going to ask you to move to the side, only because I'm going to use the LRAD and I need the clear distance.
Oh.
You're within the zone.
Okay.
This is a police announcement. The police are attempting to facilitate a peaceful removal of all tents, shelters, and structures presently erected in St. James Park in accordance with the Superior Court decision rendered on Monday, November 21st, 2011. Once all structures have been removed and the park has been rendered safe, St. James Park will be reopened to the public and you will be free to continue to exercise your right to free speech.
It's always been safe.
All right, guys, cops are moving in right now on everybody. We're gonna follow them in.
Anybody home? Trying to wake up?
Let's go, it's Toronto Police, time to leave.
Hello, City of Toronto. If you're in there, you're in violation of the trespassing law in the parks. Please remove yourself, please.
Someone in there?
It's locked.
So it is now around 9 o'clock in the morning, and as you have just seen, the police came in here shortly after around 6 a.m. 200 to 300 police or so completely surrounded the entire park and moved in and began removing everybody who was occupying a tent. And they're going to continue with the removal process throughout the day. This, of course, in no way means the end of Occupy Toronto by any means. This is merely the beginning of a whole new phase.
We have the power, that you are the solution you've been waiting for, and that it's what we thought, and if we take ownership of it, we can make it better and make it the world we want to see.
Make your chants loud and make your ears wide. Make your mind wide, and don't be so afraid to hear what the other side is saying, because they're afraid of you. And if you're going to be afraid of them at the same time, then you have no message.
These young people out here are taking on a fight that the previous generation maybe should have taken on years ago, but they're now taking it on. You should get in behind them. This is as much for you and your future and for your kids' future as it is for the folks who are in this park.